Welcome everybody to Using Evernote with Remember the Milk. I'm Sidney-Smith. I am an Evernote certified consultant, and I also happen to be the Evernote Regional Leader for North America and the Google Small Business Advisor for Productivity, for those of you who are Google fans as I am. And today we're going to be talking about Evernote with Remember the Milk. And so just a couple of points about the agenda today. If you have any questions, feel free to ask those in the chat panel in the live chat. I am trying to pay attention to it out of the corner of my eye here. So forgive me, I won't be able to see every message in real time, but I'll be able to see it out of the corner of my eye and hopefully answer your questions there. If you're watching the recording, feel free to just comment and I'll be happy to answer questions as it'll be hopefully embedded wherever you are, a comment option. Today's agenda is for me to talk a little bit about Evernote, a little bit about Remember the Milk, what those two are, why I use both of them in Confluence, and then talking a little bit about the integrations that they have with each other. I'm going to talk about some of the others. I won't necessarily demo those, but I want to show you how they can integrate with one another. And then I'll leave a little bit of time, just because we started a little bit late because of the technical difficulties. I'm going to end, in that time frame, but I'll be happy to stay after for Q&A if anybody does have any questions. So with that, what is Evernote? I know that hopefully most of you who are watching know what Evernote is, but in case you don't, Evernote is a product that helps you remember everything, stay organized wherever you are, and collaborate whenever you need to. So in essence, it is a note-taking software at its core, but around Evernote, really it provides me actually with a number of different benefits that I just think make it a solid choice for me to use. One is that it has solid performance. I know that maybe some people have issues on occasion with Evernote, but I really just never have a problem synchronizing Evernote. It's flexible in the sense that I can capture on all of my devices. I can find things on all of my devices, and I just haven't really had any problems with Evernote, whereas I've tried so many other note-taking applications, and there's some limitation as to what can be where and how it can be where. And I just really like the fact that Evernote is just on all of my devices. I can capture everything wherever I want to, and I can find it wherever I want to. And I have fairly simple needs in terms of what I want to capture, but I want to have the flexibility of finding it anywhere in case I need to access it on my phone or on tablet or on my laptop or on my desktop, wherever I might be. That just really gives me a sense of, I guess, fortitude, a sense of trust in the system. And for those of you who know, I'm a GTDer. So being a GTD or getting things done methodology person, I'm very much into believing in trusting in the tool. And so I'm not going to change to some new, latest, greatest tool that's a core part of my productivity system just because it's the new kid on the block. So Evernote is and stands to be a strong part of my system for now and into the very distant future. And the other part is that it's highly extensible, meaning that you can extend its features beyond just its core note-taking functions. And this is one of those cases. Evernote does have a checklist functionality built into it, but it's not quite a checklist and task list manager the way in which Evernote that Remember the Milk is. So it provides me with the ability to connect to other pieces through its API or through its direct integrations. It integrates with several other tools, including Google Drive and many other tools that I've talked about on the Using Evernote with Webinar series. And as Frank noted in the chat, yeah, Evernote just works. And I really just appreciate it about that. And they are going through a fundamental back-end overhaul right now. And so they've been kind of quiet. That's why I actually haven't been putting out any Getting More Done with Evernote podcast episodes. I'm working on doing some interviews with some Evernoters, as well as some folks who Evernote users and other certified consultants in the meantime, because they just haven't really been doing much on the front end, but they've been doing a lot of stuff on the back end to really make Evernote a strong tool for being able to iterate and push out new features faster in the future. So we're going to be seeing a new interface and a new Evernote very soon, and I'm looking forward to seeing those changes as they come. But as I said, Evernote has a checklist functionality in it, and I've actually shown how to use Evernote in a GTD system using individual tasks as notes within the system. And I think that's probably the easiest way to manifest a strong GTD system in Evernote. But for me, I just really want to have a task list manager that I can have independent of Evernote and to manage. And that's where Remember the Milk, I keep wanting to say Evernote, that's where Remember the Milk comes into play for me. So Remember the Milk is designed to just help you manage tasks simply, quickly, easily, and that's it. It's got a very simplistic aesthetic. It is super easy to access from every device. In essence, if I want to ask Big G, which is the voice assistant, to capture something into Remember the Milk, I can set up Remember the Milk to go ahead and do that. I can ask my phone to do so. There's all kinds of features for being able to capture an audio and text directly into Remember the Milk. I can email tasks directly into Remember the Milk. I can do all kinds of really fun things just to very quickly. You can tweet. I think you can direct message. You can DM into Remember the Milk from Twitter. There's just every possible and conceivable way to just capture. And that's one of the most important functions of any productivity methodology, of any productivity system that you're going to develop. You're going to need to capture very quickly. And I know that I can do that with Remember the Milk. Also, reviewing items. I really like the interface within Remember the Milk. And mind you, it is a very Spartan aesthetic. So some people, it just is not their flavor of interface, and I totally get that. I'm hoping that by our time together, you'll be able to see some of the things that I'm doing and why I'm doing it in and with Evernote. And that way, maybe you can use that in your own system as well. But for me, I love the Spartan look of Remember the Milk. It's seamless for me to be able to just review items. And Remember the Milk has some really great reminder features. I do hope they bring their location-based reminders up to par with, say, OmniFocus and some other tools, so that I do have some geofencing and some other capabilities in there. But until that capability comes along, I have just been using Google Keep as my location-based reminder tool. So just a little bit of an annotation there to that fact. But Remember the Milk has the ability to create lists, tags. It can filter based on the obviously lists, but based on those tags, which is far more important to me. And it has very robust search capabilities. So Remember the Milk for me, I've been with it for a long time. I've been with it, I think, as long or longer than Evernote, and it just works. To use Frank Buck's note earlier, it just works. I open up Remember the Milk. I've never had a problem with synchronization with Remember the Milk. Their technical support is phenomenal. I always have a great experience with them, and they're just always, it just is always working, and I really appreciate that about them. So that's why I use Remember the Milk. And then, of course, there are the two together. I'm just going in here to see why my recording is, it should have pushed my video to the right of my recording. So you may actually be seeing my, my video overlapping the slides. So if you are, let me know. Otherwise, I will try to make sure not to describe something that's in that corner that is being covered by me. Okay, so back to the slides. Okay, so why use Evernote and Remember the Milk? For me, Evernote is great for capturing content that's just not as simple as the description of an action or a project. And Remember the Milk is a list manager, so it's very text focused. If you are trying to capture something in as a description of a project or an action, that being directly into the RTM inbox or directly into a project or action on a list, that's brutally simple in Remember the Milk. But say that I'm at the grocery store and I go, you know what? I really need to buy new dress shoes. I look down at my shoes and I say, oh, you know what? I need to buy new dress shoes. And I have my phone in my hand and I double click the action button on my phone to launch the camera app, and I take a photograph of my shoes because that's what I wanted to do at that moment. And that's just my preference for being able to capture that action. Well, I can do that in Evernote. And it just lets me capture the content. I can push that into my Evernote inbox and then go on with my day. I didn't need to write anything down. And that's the power of Evernote. You can just capture whatever you want wherever you are. And at some point, though, I want to be able to interface that with Remember the Milk, because that's where I want to track the descriptions of those actions and projects. And Remember the Milk is just not going to be as easy for being able to track that image. First, I'd have to create the description of whatever it is that I'm trying to capture. I can attach an image inside of Remember the Milk task or project item, but I've got to take a photo, upload it to someplace, or upload it directly into the Remember the Milk item as an attachment. It's a little bit cumbersome. I just don't want to deal with that. So I just capture it into Evernote, and then when I go to process later, I can now connect Evernote to Remember the Milk, and whatever description I create for that project or action is just going to seamlessly be pulled into Remember the Milk for me. So it gives me this ability to go ahead and connect those pieces. On the other hand, Remember the Milk is just super simple. Okay, so it makes for single tasking for me like totally possible. I am like I'm like a squirrel. Everything going around me can be very, very distracting at times. I'm very sound sensitive. It's actually not visual for me. It's actually very sound related. So if there are sounds going on around me, I get very distracted easily, and so those can be frustrating to my auditory sense. And so I just want to be able to shut those things down as much as possible. And Remember the Milk, in at least many of the interfaces, especially I use a Chromebook for managing my Remember the Milk usually throughout the day on a device, and you can take the Android device and Android app in the Chromebook and actually just shrink the window down until nothing shows but the action you have selected. And that's just been super helpful for me to just have that single action with any notes or any subtasks that I have listed in that item to look at. And so if I'm working on a project, I can see all those things. I can just see everything solely about that thing on screen, and that I really like. But being able to tie Evernote and Remember the Milk together really for me is about project and project support. I have a tendency, and that's what I'm going to show you today, is connecting project and the project support note that I create in Evernote to the project that is resident within Remember the Milk. So since I'm a GTDer, I like to have a full, complete list of my projects, and I want to be able to look at that project list and see them all. And I want the resident data to be over in Evernote so that I'm able to then capture whatever other content I want, whatever other media I want into that project support note and see that together. I don't need to do that while I'm dealing with actions, but I might want to look at that content at some point as support for that particular project, and Evernote allows me to do that. So with that, I'm going to take you over into the interface and show you around Evernote, show you around Remember the Milk so you can kind of see what and how it all works. So I'm just going to hope that you see my screen here, and just showing you a couple of pointers about the Remember the Milk interface so that you have an idea about how this really works. So I'm just making sure that you can see my screen. Yes, you can. Wonderful. Okay, so, and by the way, if you have, I have a question here that if I have the Pro Remember the Milk account. Yes, I do have Remember the Milk Pro, and I have for many years. But what I'm showing you today actually doesn't require Remember the Milk Pro. So everything I'm going to be showing you today, as you can see in the current screen, it says, "Are you ready to get more done?" And then upgrade to Pro. So I'm showing this to you in a non-Pro account. And so this is in the free account. And yeah, so just a quick kind of introduction to the interface. This is the Remember the Milk interface, and you have the ability to do just all the basics of getting around any good application. Here you can shrink the left-hand navigation drawer so that you can just see the list of items that you're currently looking at. You can switch between your lists. You can create new lists. So I can create a new list that is a static list that I want to be able to show. And bear with me, I'm not sure. I thought my screen was showing, and now it's not. Let's see here. I'm going to stop screen sharing, and then I'm going to re-screen share and make sure that it's showing my whole screen so that you're all seeing everything. Yes, thank you, Elaine. I see that. I'm re-sharing my screen to hopefully see if it doesn't come back and show it to you. There's a little bit of a delay in the broadcast from Zoom to you, so I see a little. I have to wait for you all to catch up on the YouTube side. All right, awesome. Okay, great. So so this is the Remember the Milk interface. In the Remember the Milk interface, you have the ability to close the left-hand navigation drawer, and then you have the list in the center panel, and then on the right-hand side is where subsequent items, internal things are shown. So for example, if I write in task A, there is the task A in the inbox now. If I click on task A, now they are here, and I can go ahead and create subtasks. I can fill in fields. Now note that you see a due date and a list. You can actually add all of these other fields to be permanently in this view for you to be able to list. It has a start date and a due date, so you can have both the beginning of something and the end of something. Note that in all of my systems, I actually track tasks or actions against a start date and projects against a due date, right? So there's an action always working toward an outcome, which is all time bound. There's nothing in the system other than some days and maybes that are not due date related. So there's some days in there that are just captured and some maybes that are just captured, but anything that is an action resident in the system, an active project or action, they're going to have a start date or a due date. Actions have start dates, projects have due dates. Okay, and this gives me the ability to also search against those items. So if I'm ever searching a start date, it's always against a task. If I'm ever searching against a due date, it's always against a project. And that's just another flavor of being able to control some of these pieces. You do have to have a pro account in order to have subtasks, but for the most part, you probably don't need them. Okay, so here goes just a normal interface for being able to create a list and putting items on the list, right? So I create a new list and say, call this new list. I have my task A in the inbox, and I've decided that it belongs on the new list. I can drag it there. There are many other ways you can get it in there, but now it's here resident within the new list. You can also create things that are called smart lists. Smart lists allow you to be able to go in and, in essence, create a saved search that finds different types of criteria. Okay, very, very powerful feature. I'm not going to get into too much else about Remember the Milk. If you have any questions, by all means, I'm happy to answer them. But that's really the basics. You have lists, and then you have tasks, and then you can, of course, also tag them. And I'll be using the tags in some way, shape, or form in my system at any given time. But connecting Evernote to Remember the Milk is actually really, really simple. So I'm going to leave full screen mode here, go to a new tab. And what we do is we go to rememberthemilk.com/services/Evernote. Okay, if you just go to that page, you'll be taken to the Remember the Milk for Evernote service page. And you can see here that you will have an option, unlike right now, it will say here, connect to Evernote. You'll click on that connect to Evernote button, and then you will be taken to the Evernote page. And I'll just do it for you because I'm running a little bit behind, but I can do it for you. You're gonna let's click revoke access, and then we'll go back to the services page. Okay, so you're going to see this Connect Evernote button. You click on that Connect Evernote button. You'll be then asked to log into Evernote Web if you're not already logged in, and then you'll get a time frame. A year is probably a good time frame, and click Authorize. All right, this allows it to create notebooks and notebooks and tags, update those notes, notebooks, and tags. It allows you to, it gets access to the list of notebooks and tags in the system and to retrieve the notes. Note that it doesn't allow for the deletion of notes, notebooks, or tags, okay? It can delete a note, but it can't permanently delete a note, meaning that it can't put it in the trash and then empty the trash can. And then, of course, it can't access your account information and it can't update your account information. So pretty secure in terms of the account level stuff and any major destruction that Evernote could possibly do for you. But click Authorize, and voila, it says you've successfully linked your Evernote account to Remember the Milk. So then, in essence, what we can do is we can go over to Evernote. And this is a demo account, so this is my Evernote demo account. I can go over to my inbox in the Evernote demo account, and I can create a new task. And so I can say task A, and now this is, I'm sorry, this would be task B because we already have a task A. So this is task B in my system. And so task A is living on the new list in Evernote and in Remember the Milk. And here, all I need to do now to integrate this with Evernote, I'm sorry, with Remember the Milk, is to click the reminder function. So I add reminder. In this case, I can add a date, which would be a due date in Remember the Milk. And remember, the thing I'm doing is not task management, but project management between the two of them. So this is a little bit different, and I'll explain why. I'm not going to add a date here because that would add a due date to this task. And what did I say? I said start dates are what I use in Remember the Milk. For actions, for tasks, for projects, I use the due date. So I would not add it here. So then going back over to let's see, where was I? To here. We would go back to the Remember the Milk interface, and you will see in the inbox, there goes task B. It's almost instantaneous once Evernote synchronizes with Remember the Milk. So just to show it again in hopefully somewhat real time, let's add task C. I'm going to close this, and then I'm going to synchronize. It's synchronized, and now we're back over to the Remember the Milk interface. Here goes the inbox, and of course it's going to make me a liar now. Let's go back over. What did I do wrong? Oh, I didn't add the case in point. I didn't add the reminder. So I had the reminder. You have to make sure to add a reminder. Click synchronize, and then if we hop back over here, you can see it's almost instantaneous that the task becomes an action in here. Okay, so it's very, very fast. So that's the primary function of how the Remember the Milk service works with it. Now, you can create interactions with IFT and Zapier as well. You can connect Remember the Milk with IFT. You can connect Remember the Milk with Zapier, and Evernote, as you know or don't know, already connects to Zapier and IFT. So you can create some other more sophisticated interactions in that way, but that's the core integration between the two of them. So now what I do is I create directly inside of Evernote my projects as I need them. Okay, so let's just put these into new list, and we'll go there. Okay, so what I would do is I would create a projects list. Okay, and now we have a projects list. Now remember, my projects list, I want to be a complete list of all the open projects in my world, right? All the things that are going to require multiple actions in order to get to an outcome. But what I want to do is I want all of my projects to have a due date and for them to be tied to an Evernote note from here and Remember the Milk. So what that means is that I have to hop over to Evernote and create the projects directly within my projects notebook. So just ignoring these items that are in here, let's create a new project. Let's call this one Project A, okay? And then I want to go ahead and create another project, and that's going to be Project B. And then another project, and that will be Project C. Oops. All right, now each of these projects are here now. They are not connected to Evernote in any way, but I want them, I'm sorry, to Remember the Milk in any way, but I want them to be. So I'm going to go into here to Project A. I'm going to go ahead, set a reminder, and I'm going to say that is going to be due at the end of the month. I want this Project B to be due at the end of next month. And Project C is not going to have a due date of this month or next month, but it's going to have a due date of 3 months from now. So we're going to go not end of this month, not the end of this month, but the end of Friday, August 28th. Wonderful. Okay. Now they all three are now reminder notes in Evernote. They've gotten a due date, which is the final outcome date of the item, and I'm going to go ahead and synchronize. Okay. At that point, now in the inbox, we have Project A that showed up. And I'm not sure why Project B and C aren't there yet, but they should be. Let's see, did I set a reminder date? Yes. And set the reminder date. Yes. Let's synchronize that again. I'm just going to refresh the app. There they are. Okay, so you can see here now, all of these items have now shown up in the inbox. And what I'm just going to do is I'm going to move them over to my projects list. Now, this is the cool part. If I click on this project, note here now that Remember the Milk has created this little mini item. And when I click on it, it's going to open up my notes for that note for and in Evernote. So now I can see immediately what it is that I have in there. Now, if it were me, I would then create the actions I need to outside of this project directly in the appropriate lists that need things done for, right? So I would not use these subtasks. What I will do is if I want to flesh out the projects of a particular the multiple projects within a single project, I will likely flesh those out as subtasks in the system. So what are considered subtasks in here, I would be inside this project kind of fleshing out the milestones of the project and maybe some of the other projects that are going to be embedded within this particular project. But the actions are not going to live here. They're going to live in my active system. I only want this here as a vessel for planning and knowing what the major milestones are. Remember the Milk gives you the ability to take notes. So I can take notes here, and I can add as many of these as I want to. You can also attach things. With a pro account, you can upload documentation from Dropbox, Google Drive, and of course, uploading from your computer. Again, I don't use it just because, even though I have a pro account, I don't use it because I just put it in Evernote and attach it through Evernote, and it pretty much satisfies everything, and it centralizes it. I don't want all of that data kind of mucking up my Remember the Milk. I want my Remember the Milk to just be text. I want to be able to see just the things that I'm working on, and I don't want to see any other fluff. And so what in the early days of my using this, I would actually type in Project A so that all I saw in my search, I searched for the project so that all I would see, and then I would close this. And then as you can see now, in any view, you're literally only looking at the one thing you're working on. And this just gives me super simple focus on what I'm working on instead of having to see too many things in front of me at any given time. And I just really like that. I like that interface of being able to click on one item. I see what it is that I need. If I need Evernote, I click on the Open Evernote and it opens up the note. I don't need it. I don't have to see it. And that's really the core pieces of how I use this together. And it works out really well. Now, there are a couple things that I want to pay attention to that needs to be understood. As I said before, the permissions that Evernote gives to Remember the Milk does allow for some deletion of things and otherwise, but the way in which it works is you just have to know what's going to happen. So for example, I'm going to go back to Evernote, and I'm going to mark Project A done. Okay, so if I go ahead into here and I click on Mark Done, and again, I'm sorry, you may be seeing this blocked on your screen, but I'm dropping down from Reminder and clicking Mark Done. And so I've marked this Project A done. I'm going to synchronize. And now if we go back over to Remember the Milk and go to our projects list, note that Project A has disappeared. It is now on the completed list, and Remember the Milk has marked it as done as well. Okay. That does not work the other way though. If I mark something completed over here, it does not mark it as completed in Evernote. Okay. I don't know why, it just doesn't. And if someone else is experiencing something differently, let me know. And then Breakthrough Coaching is saying, I'm mostly using Remember the Milk on your iPhone and Evernote also. Would this still all work, or do I need to be on the web version of Remember the Milk? No, this works completely cross-system. So when you are inside of Evernote on the mobile application, you just click on the Evernote notes that you want to turn into Remember the Milk items, and you just click on the reminder icon, and then it will turn that item into a Remember the Milk item, and it'll be in Remember the Milk as well. So there's no limitation in terms of that. Right now, if you're using the preview version, the new-ish version of Evernote Web, you will see that new notes are not capable of being created. So here is Evernote Web. It was one of the things I was going to talk about anyway. But as you can see here, there's no function down here for being able to take a non-existent note and turn it into a reminder note. In the older versions of Evernote Web, if you're still using the older version, you are capable of doing that. This preview version right now, you are not able to do that. But if I go into All Notes and look at Project C, you can see down here that there is an existing icon that shows that this is a reminder note. Okay, I can't do anything with it. I can't change the date. I can't do, I don't think, anything with it at the present moment, and I hope that they fix that very soon. That's something that you can't do right now, but you can at least see that it's a reminder note, and therefore that will be translated over to Remember the Milk here. Okay, but like I said, if I click this and click complete for Project B, it's now completed. But if I go over to Evernote and go to Project B, it's not completed here. Okay, there's no, it should say mark done or anything like that. None of that actually works here. So So you have to like go in here and, mark done manually over here, and that doesn't seem to have a bearing on Evernote from the Remember the Milk side. So it's just something to keep in mind. Okay. What else was I going to say? Yeah, so we have mobile capability. We have the weird limitations of when you check things off in one place or the other. Same thing applies for deletion of things. So let's go over to incompleted. Here goes Project C, and say that I no longer want Project C here. I go ahead and delete this task, and now it is living in my trash. We can see it here in the trash. And if we go back over to Evernote though and synchronize, Project C is still here. It does not delete the note, and so you are good to go. Okay, so you can actually hit reminder again, and this will generate a new reminder action that will be created in the Remember the Milk interface. So it actually like gives you the option of being able to you can delete it, recreate it, delete it again, and recreate it all on the Remember the Milk side, but that won't affect the actual note living here. And that means you could just keep doing it over and over again. I've actually found that to be useful on occasion where I've wanted to actually take the project and replicate the reminder action as say that I had this very opaque task and I wanted to be able to let Remember the Milk grab that text and create an action and then just put in parens or a dash this project. I can do that and relate it to the project support note by doing that, and then going on with my world. And that allowed me to kind of do that on occasion when I want to have an action associated with that particular project. That's rare. It happens maybe when there's a very large single action type project where I'm going to have to slog through data entering these 500 items. It's just going to take some time, but all the data I just take and throw into an Evernote note, and now it's there for me. So that's been helpful for being able to do that kind of stuff. So with that, that's the Evernote and Remember the Milk integration, just connecting the pieces between the two of them. What I'm going to do is I'm going to close this out, and then I'm going to be happy to stay after for Q&A. So just a couple of reminders, we have an upcoming webinar on July 9th where I'll be talking about the integration between using Evernote with Google Calendar. And so I'm really excited about that one. If Remember the Milk is a tool that I've been using longer than Evernote, I've been using Google Calendar for even longer than that. Since its early beta days, I've been using Google Calendar, and it's been a tried and true part of my productivity system. So I'm really looking forward to showing you some of the ways in which I integrate the two of them very closely. And then in August, in kind of the dog days of summer, we will be talking about Evernote and ActiveWords. ActiveWords is a keyboard replacement, a text replacement software, and this is a product that I've been using, and I just think it's just so phenomenal. It'll be so much fun to show you how those two integrate. So I'm looking forward to talking about that on August 13th. Just another quick announcement: I am hosting a little mini conference, the one-day conference on June 18th. It's called Remote Work Productivity Conference, and it's all about remote work productivity. I know a lot of us are working from home, as I am now, and feeling some of the struggles of being productive in a remote work environment. And remote work is not just working from home. It's any distributed workforce. If you're a digital nomad, if you're doing office hoteling, in essence, you're remote working. You're having to function in different contexts, in different places, and you want to stay productive. And so we have a whole day of content generated around that, and you can find all of that. If you're not in Personal Productivity Club, you can join Personal Productivity Club by going to personalproductivity.club. If you go to remoteworkproductivity.co, you can register there, and if you have any questions, just shoot me a message and I can tell you where to go and how to get there. But remoteworkproductivity.co will get you there and get you into the Remote Work Productivity Conference conference hall where everything will be taking place. It's all virtual, so there's no hotel rooms to buy, rent, or anything like that, or travel arrangements. It's all remote, provided to you through here. It's free to attend, and I'm looking forward to having everybody here on June 18th for Remote Work Productivity Conference. if you want to keep in touch, feel free to send me an email with a question if you have one. You can always follow and subscribe for free to the podcast, Getting More Done with Evernote. I'm trying to put out more content on that as soon as Evernote kind of gets their gears grinding again. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram. And so with that, just note for the Q&A in there, as Carolyn said, this was recorded, and I will place this into the library for people to do that. If you see the Personal Productivity Club event, this will be embedded in it. So you'll see that there. And so that's how you'll get access to the recording. I will send a link out to those who registered for you to be able to hop in there and access the recording. And with that, do you have any questions? Any questions for me that I didn't answer? And I will hang tight for just about a minute while you all do that. While I'm waiting to see if there are any questions, I will note that I'm contemplating future topics for the Using Evernote webinar series just generally. So if you have any topics that you'd like to suggest, some way that you want to see how Evernote could be integrated, feel free to email me at ray@focusatwork.co or message me inside of Personal Productivity Club, and I will be happy to maybe add that to the roster if that's something that I can show and demo on screen. I haven't had the best luck with demos lately. I think the last 2 times I demoed IFT and Zapier, they both didn't work exactly the way that I wanted to during the demo. But obviously IFT and Zapier both work just fine. Just it didn't work in the demo and the live versions. But by all means, if you have some ideas regarding things that you'd like to see happen in Evernote connected to other tools, that's the whole point. Or if you have like a particular way, like you want to figure out how to do something with Evernote and have a quick question, I can maybe turn that into one of our little 30-minute times together and have a good time with it. Callie's asking, can you explain again about the equivalent of start date and due date from one app to the other? Yeah, so in Evernote, there's just a due date. In Evernote, it's always a due date, and that translates when you connect it to Remember the Milk as a due date, period. So it's just due date to due date, and that's the part that synchronizes any date and time function within the system. It's just a personal preference, a personal principle, which is that actions have start dates in my world. Remember the Milk supports start dates, and so I use that as a function for being able to manage actions against projects. So actions lead toward a project, and a project is a terminal date. So it has a termination date of the due date that I'm going to get that outcome or deliverable completed. So that's all it means, is that the actions along the path are always going to be start dates toward that project outcome. So due dates and due dates in Evernote and Remember the Milk are the same, and start dates are independent within Remember the Milk. Leon's asking, Remember the Milk versus Google Keep for the same use case or cases that I just demonstrated. Well, so in Google Keep's world, Google Keep is actually a product within Google Drive, and so it's kind of inside the umbrella of Google Cloud within Google Drive, in which Google Keep is kind of lives. So if you go to keep.google.com, you can find it there. Google Keep has the ability to create checklists within a particular note, and has some very sophisticated geolocation functions. So I really like it for that perspective. You can capture images, audio, images and audio into a Google Keep note, and so that's actually really quite nice. Again, my point in using Remember the Milk is that Google Keep is just a little too fluffy interface for me. I want to see a list of things. I do not want special colors I don't want things colored. I don't want things cluttering my view. I want to get things done. I do not want to see pretty things. And so that's my personal preference. That's not yours potentially, but the colors of the notes in Google Keep are just distracting to me, and I just want to see a static black and white list of notes. And there's a reason for that for me, which is that my tags in Remember the Milk are colored. So those little tiny colors trigger for me what that action is about, but it doesn't actually impede upon color contrast. I want to see black, white, black text on white background or white text on black background if I have dark mode turned on, and I do not want to have any difficulty with regard to reading a particular item. And for some reason, for me, with the Google Keep interface, those really rich colors that are showing just doesn't work for me. So it's a personal preference thing. It doesn't obviously have the same connectivity between Evernote and Google Keep that Remember the Milk has with Evernote, but you can probably put those together using IFT or Zapier to connect Google Keep and Evernote. So I think you could potentially do a lot of the same things. It would just take a little bit more sophisticated automation set up between one of those automation services. So for breakthrough coaching, could you go over again, how do we get Remember the Milk to be set up with Evernote? Yeah, just go to rememberthemilk.com/services/Evernote. And there you will click Connect Evernote and then authorize the connection. And that's it. It's as simple as that. And then there's a question, apologies if you missed this earlier, how much of what you described works with Evernote free version? Yeah, so everything I described is both Remember the Milk free version and Evernote for free. Okay, so Evernote Basic. So both of those work fully in those two free products. So nothing, that's why I used my demo account and the Evernote Basic features, and then I created a demo account with Remember the Milk that's not upgraded at all. It's just the free Remember the Milk account that I created for the demo purposes. So free on both sides. All right, everybody, I really appreciate the questions and the engagement. I look forward to seeing you again next time, or seeing you inside of Personal Productivity Club or elsewhere. Take care, and see you later. Bye-bye.